Hey guys, welcome back to the Hat House. Appreciate everybody coming back with us today. Today we got some great hats going out, several over the $30 mark. And we sell all sorts of hats, everywhere from fishing hats to hunting hats to insulated hats to sports hats to Jordan hats. About any hat that could be sold, I will sell it. So be on the lookout for those hats that sell for over $30. There's several of them in this video. Now, I will show every single hat that I sell. You can pick up the things that are good, and then you can also see the things that you might not want to pick up. I pick up a lot of them in bulk, so sometimes I just try to sell some of that lower end hats just to get them gone out of my store. But also, I come across some really good ones that you'll want to keep an eye out for. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. If you want to learn how to get a free hat, then stay tuned. If you're ready to get to the hats that sold, you can skip forward about 30 seconds. Appreciate you guys. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment and let you know how you can get a free hat from the Hat House. All you need to do is like, comment, and subscribe. Then there will be my email address that you can send me an email to in the description. We'll send you one of these hats. This is one of the styles. This is another one of the styles. There's 3 more styles and colors. I'll probably show them up here on the screen right now. And then all you have to do is follow the instructions. It will be a limited time. While the email address is still in the description, I'll still be giving them away. So hurry up, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Hat House. We got a lot of hats going out today, so we'll get right into it. We appreciate everybody tuning in. You'll want to see what some of these sold for. We had a pretty good weekend. All right, guys, let's get packing. First up, we've got this. What is this? Oh, Disney Up. Next hat was Western Oregon Wolves strapback hat by OC. Next up was just a Flex Fit blank hat. Blanks do pretty well. People are always looking to buy them, put their own embroidery on. Next up was an Oklahoma Sooners strapback. Next up we had Enigma Fishing. You see the logo there. There's just a Flex Fit hat too. Next up was a nice sale. This was the New York Yankees. It was just different because it had the Italian flag on it. Yankees, so it went for 30 because it was just kind of a special hat. Next up was a Portland Timbers soccer hat by Adidas. Next hat was a Home Depot hat, just a regular strap back. Next up was a nice vintage Del Monte K Products hat. I think this one sold for over 20. Next up was just a Dunder Mifflin office hat. Next up was a nice LL Bean. See that Gore-Tex hat, trapper hat. Really great shape. I think this one went for over 30 too. Next up was a nice FMC Furden camouflage trucker hat. We always talk about really good patches, and camouflage always does really well too. Next up was a heavily distressed Carhartt hat. Never go for much, but they always sell. Next up was the basic Nike Featherlight hat. Next up was a nice Jordan 5-panel hat. I don't remember if I ended up taking 40 for this. I think it sold for around there. It was in really great shape, almost like new. Nice all over print on it. Another good vintage sports hat to be on the lookout for is Apparel One. This is Buffalo Bills by Apparel One. There's the Apparel One tag. I think that one sold for around 30. Next up was Oregon State Beavers. We call this one a 3-bar. The game hat. Next up was a Roxy women's hat, snapback. foam trucker. Next up was an MTV hat, tie-dye. Next up was a Gonzaga, cool retro hat. This one's by Top of the World. Next up was a new one to me. This is Big Sur, California. It was on the Ample Creative tag. Sold pretty quick. I guess it's a park in California. Next up was the Hamilton musical hat. Next up was the Washington. What is their baseball team called? Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't think of it. But anyways, be on the lookout for the denim hats. They always do a little bit better than the regular hats. This was 47 brand. Next up was a nice Polaroid corduroy hat. I think this one sold for like 24. This one did really well. Next up was Liquid Death. These hats do really well too. I think it sold for around 20 to 25. Next up, another distressed Carhartt hat. Plenty of staining, but it doesn't matter. Next up was a Nike True hat, fitted. It was just blank. It still sold really well. Next up was a combined order. Had this nice vintage Oregon 1995 Rose Bowl. It was on the auto tag. If it might have been on a better tag, it might have sold it for more. But I took a quick, easy $20 for that. And combined it with the bucket hat too. Got an Oregon Nike bucket hat. Next up was a vintage Notre Dame starter hat. Pretty rough condition. And it was strapped back, so it didn't sell for very much. Next up, we had another combined order. We had two NBA hats going out. Golden State Warriors and the Vancouver Grizzlies. Both Mitchell and Ness snapbacks. Next up was just a basic Nike hat. It was on the older tag, Nike Golf. Next up was the O'Reilly Auto Parts snapback hat. Next up was a nice Nike golf hat. Said the golf club on it. Really good condition. Next up, Wyoming Cowboys. Just wish they would have beat Texas. Next up, Montreal Canadiens. This is on the Sports Specialties tag. This one's vintage. Had the NHL side hit too. Just had a few flaws. Had some separation on one of the seams. Next up was Clemson Tigers dad hat by 47. Next up was a Jordan hat. I sold it for 20 bucks. Maybe I undersold it, sold it quick. This is alright. It was in really good condition too. Next up was a Detroit Tigers fitted hat. New era. Next up was Cleveland Browns. This one took forever to sell. I guess they really don't like this logo anymore. Next up was Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Gonna watch Baker play tonight. Just regular strap back. It's on the NFL tag. Next up was a vintage fishing hat by LL Bean. Sold for around $30. Really quick too. Old vintage fishing hats can do really well. A lot of times they go overseas to Japan. We got an Adidas hat. Sold quickly. If you watched our inventory video, this happened to be one of the hats that weren't in our inventory anymore. So I pulled it out, we relisted it, and sold it in a couple of days. Next up was a Nike True pink hat. With swoosh and spell out. Next up was a Tommy Hilfiger with the Tommy spell out. Next up was Fox Racing. This one went out on Mercari, I think for around $15. Really clean Fox Racing hat. Big cool logo. All right, next up I think was another Mercari sell. This one sold for around $28 though. Took me a while to figure out this was Derek Rose logo. Nice snapback hat from Adidas. This is just a little more rare, so it held some value. Next up was a fitted Steelers hat. Kind of small. I always call anything under 7 youth, 6 7/8. Next up was a Santa Cruz skateboard hat, dad hat. Next up was a Nike visor, Fred Nike visor. Next up was a Texas A&M snapback hat. Next up was a Nike Featherlight hat. And then we had a St. Louis Cardinals fitted hat. This one was 7.5. Still in really good shape. Clean. Alright guys, I got everything in the box. Now I just got to tape it all up and throw them in the bags and get to the post office. Thanks again for hanging out with us today at the Hat House. If you made it this far, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. It keeps me motivated to keep putting out more content. Really appreciate everybody that's subscribed so far, and we'll see you guys again real soon.